Hey, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, Miss Bennon here. Fair warning, I'm using a document cam from school for this video, so if it's a little autofocus problems or having some issues, I apologize in advance. But I need kind of an interesting setup today because I want to show you what I'm drawing and then show you my drawings. So this is the best as it gets at home, all right? So this is all about still lives today. And what a still life is, it's an arrangement of everyday objects. So things that are not alive in your house. So don't start drawing your sister or your dog. They move around too much, okay? Find some very simple objects. I want you to find at least 3. It could be really anything, but just know the more complicated the object, the more difficult the challenge of the drawing it will be. So I would recommend books, Kleenex boxes, maybe like a glue bottle, paint bottles, a can, a soup, a baseball, some very solid geometric shapes. So something that you see every day. Organic shapes like a face or a flower or something that's a little bit more bendy, foldy, free-flowing will be more of a challenge. So find at least 3 objects. If you want to pause the video now and do that, you can. But 3 objects for the first thing, okay? The first thing you want to think about when you have those 3 objects is your composition. Now, you may have heard that word before when you've heard about music, because usually someone composes a piece of music. That just means putting things together. So a musician composes music by putting the notes together. An artist composes their piece of art by arranging the things in their piece of art. So think about your composition. And the second thing to really think about is the lighting. If I had more time and more lights and things, I would probably have gotten like a desk light or like a flashlight to shine on my objects. But they're far away and probably out of batteries. So I'm sticking with my dining room lights, and I'm actually growing a bunch of plants in my window with like a grow fluorescent light, so that light helps. I also have my window open, so I'm getting some outside light in. And depending on what time you're drawing in the day, if you're using the outside lights, the sun or the cloudy sky, it's going to be very different, okay? Bright sun versus clouds versus 7 a.m. versus noon, depending where the sun is. So if you're using the sun, try to draw around the same time every day, all right? So composition, light sources, okay? So here's what mine looks like if I just turn my camera here. Excuse the chair, there are plants growing on it, but I put a real plant next to Nefertiti, next to a tiki head with flowers popping out of it, some limes and an apple, and a book, okay? That's a lot of things, and they're kind of complicated, but I wanted to challenge myself, so I went complicated today. To start drawing your piece, don't worry about drawing almost all of it. Like if I wanted to, I could really just focus on drawing the top part, because that's the board it's sitting on, the plant, the pot of the plant, and a sculpture piece. I've had that Nefertiti for years. But if you, like I said, if you want to challenge yourself, put more objects in, make them more complicated, do what you gotta do. So for this, I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to hold my drawing up and try to focus in on my paper. For when I'm drawing this, I start very, very light, so hopefully the camera can catch that. And I try to just get a general idea of where things are going to go. So I'm going to start with this bench. Now, the proportions might look a little different for you than me, because my camera is sitting all the way over here. It's different from what I see. So even if you're like 3 feet moved over, 2 feet, 1 foot, it's going to be different, okay? Sometimes I like using my pencil as a measuring stick. I'll kind of put my paper down and I'll hold my pencil out and I'll figure out, oh, this looks like it's at this angle. Kind of move it back here to see if I'm all right, and I will measure this way. You can see already from my paper, I am making mistakes. I'm getting sketchy. I am getting sloppy. And you know what? For a very rough layout, that's okay. Okay, so I just started this table. When you're drawing geometric things, like the edge of this platform, that's a 3-dimensional rectangle. So there's a few things you want to think about for geometric shapes. If your top of your line, come on, camera, Figure it out, bud. If your top line is at this angle, your bottom one will most likely follow it, okay? The angles of your corners should pretty much be the same. And your long side here is going to be the same as this one. Now, I can't see that though. Okay, this is one of the problems that I get with teaching still life drawings to people. I'm going to kind of turn this camera back for a second. When I am talking about still lives with people, they're like, oh, that's a book, or oh, that's a plant. I know what that looks like. And they start drawing more with their imagination, okay? For still life drawings, you really got to cut that out because we're using our eyes today, okay? So if you are looking at your object and you're like, oh, well, there is a crack right here, I'm going to draw that. But can you see all of it? Is it all really there, right? So if I turn my camera back so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, I'll give you an example. For Nefertiti, you can see she's got one ear totally visible, and the other one is just like a little, you can hardly see it, a little dot on the other side. But I'll have people that try to draw two giant ears, all right? Draw what you actually see, okay? Now, I can get back to my paper up here and give you some more insights here. When you start adding your objects together, I like saying it is like building a relationship with all the objects on the table. So what I mean by that is I'm like, okay, if I said this was the corner of my platform, where does the plant belong in relationship to this platform? So for my view, I'm like, okay, it comes down to about here, and it looks like it goes all the way back here. That seems weird, but I'm going to go with it. And it goes up, and it goes up. Okay, that looks like a good rough like plant shape here for the little jar it's sitting in. And then I'm like, okay, so if I want to start drawing Nefertiti, I'll think, where does the bottom of her sculpture go next to this jar? Where is it cut up next to this jar? Where does this leaf look? And I'm constantly asking myself questions when I am drawing. Okay, come on, camera, work with me here. There we go. So when I'm drawing, I'm constantly thinking, okay, where does this start? Where does this end? Is that angle looking right? I'm always having a conversation with myself when I am talking. And it's a good thing I have those in my head because people would think I'm a little crazy otherwise. So I am always trying to see, okay, if this jar is this big, how big does her head have to be? All right, so as I'm drawing, I'm keeping it light, I'm worrying about the details later, okay? So I can see more of her ear than you can, so don't make fun of my ear. So I'm not even gonna worry about the face quite yet. I would slowly keep adding, I would be saying, oh, there's a leaf roughly here. There's a leaf on top of that leaf, okay? And don't worry about all those little details. If you picked a plant with a crazy amount of leaves, I guess you will have to worry about all those leaves. But it's always asking yourself, how does this part relate to this part? It's relationships, okay? I did a drawing the other week, maybe I'll share it with you. I did a self-portrait of me staring out the window with my nose squished against the glass. And while I was drawing that, I was constantly asking myself, how does this freckle relate to the ear? How long is the ear compared to the head? And I constantly asking yourself, do these make sense together? Okay. And the more objects you add, the more you have to ask that for yourself. So 3 is a good number to start with for still lives. As to what I'm expecting you to hand in, like I said, take a picture of a drawing that you've done for your still life. I'm also looking for value. That I haven't even started yet. I am working on just these outline drawings, okay? So you can see, come on, camera. These are just lines. It's nothing filled in really, maybe some things I started, but I haven't added any value. That's where that lighting comes into play. So if I back this up a little bit, the side of my jar over here, Gary, be quiet. Side of my jar over here is maybe darker. So I'm going to start adding some of these pencil lines in, okay? If you're like, Miss Bennon, like, I don't like how scribbly that looks. I'm not a fan. You could use a paper towel. You could use a napkin. You could use, You could use your finger to kind of smudge this in. Sometimes I like to use my pinky, but if you do use your hands, you would naturally have oils on your hands, so it kind of interferes with the paper and your pencil. So if you try to go back and erase things, it kind of is hit or miss a little bit. So I recommend using a paper towel or something like that when you're smudging in values. And when you're adding values, let me get this. Da-da-da. Come on, camera. When you're adding values, I'm looking for light, medium, and like as hard as you can push your paper, dark. Okay, so I'm looking for all of these. Okay, so if you just stick on the light side, really push yourself to get darker. That might be the only area that I would maybe dock a few points if you just submitted an outline drawing or you just did really light. I'd say add more dark. Or if you were really dark, I'd say add more light. Now you're like, Miss Ben, how do I add more light if I want too dark? Your eraser is a great tool for adding highlights and like shiny parts. Your eraser is a tool, not just for like, I made a mistake spelling. You can use it a lot in art to add highlights or shiny bits. So, but keep drawing light as you can because it makes erasing and correcting and changing things a little easier. So, I think I'll give you one last look at some of my starting ones here. So if you have any questions about this still life thing, let me know. It doesn't matter what size paper you have, as long as it's on paper. It doesn't matter how big it is, as long as I can see those light, medium, dark values, and it's an object of some sort. It's helpful if I can tell what it is. If it kind of just looks like a blob, I might ask you to add some more details, because I should be able to kind of tell what you're drawing. But anyway, that's all I got for you for this kind of overview of still life drawings. I'd recommend doing this maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day next week, or this current week, whenever you're watching this. So if you're working on math for a while, you're like, oh, I need a break, go sit down where you are doing your still life drawing and draw for a little bit. So that's at least like 25, 30 minutes total. That's not a huge commitment, but if you're really getting into it, spend an hour or two on it. I know when I'm at the college level, you spend like 3 hours just in a day drawing. So 25 minutes in a week, it's not too much to ask, all right? So, or if you want to get it all done in one day and sit down for like half an hour, get it done, sure. But you can always go back and change and create things. So any other questions, let me know. Submit photos to that Dropbox in the Google Classroom or email me. I prefer the Google Classroom because it's a couple extra steps otherwise. So, but anyway, let me know if you need anything, and hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully the rain stopped. I'm filming this on a rainy day and I'm kind of over it. So I will talk to you later, hopefully, and have a good day. Bye.